Thank you so much. Welcome. Thank you so much for attending this Center for Indic Studies seminar series. Our topic today is the trip or the pilgrimage by Doc and Savi Vaidyanathan to basically the Mahā Kumbha, but also Ayodhya and Vārāṇasī. So it's what we call a trifecta of pilgrimage. As you know, the Kumbh is a very sacred event in the Hindu calendar. And this year it was even more so because in a typical 12-year cycle, this is 12 times 12, 144 years, kind of. So very special event. And estimates of how many people attended it vary anywhere from 500 to, let's say, 650 million. But even if we take the more conservative value, it's kind of only 2 countries have population higher than 500 million. So you can imagine the logistics and this event also was very much praised for its sustainability initiatives that it took. So there were institutions that went to study this and see how these principles can be incorporated in, let's say, urban planning in general. I'm aware of folks from MIT, Stanford, UC Berkeley. They studied this. Companies like Ernst & Young, McKinsey, Boston Consulting Group. So it's a very major undertaking. And so we would like to hear from Doc and Savi. I mean, we have been having this seminar series for many, many years. But I have great pride in saying today is very special for me because this seminar speaker is somebody I have known for a long, long time. She was my classmate in high school. So Savita Vaidyanathan, I used to remember her Savita Anantaram when we were in high school. So after that, she got a bachelor's degree in maths from St. Stephen's College, Delhi, then came to this country, got an MBA. And then she has a variety of career kind of happenings. She calls herself a poly-professional. I call her polymath. She has been in marketing, teacher, turned banker. But I mean, we all in our WhatsApp group for high school, or for the high school that we attended, we call her Mayor Sahiba because she was the mayor of Cupertino, California. Cupertino, as you know, is the headquarters of Apple. So major tech hub. But we are so happy that Doc has made his kind of calendar open up for about half an hour of today's seminar. So our Doc Vaidyanathan is the VP AI Center of Excellence at IBM. His research, his portfolio includes AI, cybersecurity, anti-fraud, compliance, etc., etc. He's kind of a serial entrepreneur. He's, for example, his most recent, he was co-founder of Spanugo, and then it was sold to IBM. So now he's at IBM. And Doc and Savi, they both visited, they both went on this pilgrimage. So, Savi, shall we start?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Anujaji, please remove me from the spotlight. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for being here. And thank you, Professor Sukalyan Sengupta, for inviting us. To me, you'll always be Suku, but I'll try not to use that in this format.
No, that's perfectly fine because that's how many people know me by. So.
Okay. Like you said, we go back so many years, and it is just our honor and pleasure to be part of this wonderful forum. Now, one of the reasons why we chose to do this trip at this time had a little bit to do with the fact that Doc, it was his college's 40th reunion, and that's in Kanpur in northern India. So while we were putting together a plan for visiting the reunion, a lot of people who are in Silicon Valley said, oh, why don't we do a good big group together and let's all go and let's add some places and make it into a pilgrimage. That's how this came about. And if you can do this slide sharing.
Sure.
So while they are setting up the slide sharing, let me just mention, which I was remiss in saying, Doc is a graduate of IIT Kanpur and IIM Calcutta.
Thank you, Sukul.
Okay.
You might need to minimize that.
So, so this is how it started. So sometimes these trips are not what you plan. Fortune favors you in some sense. So when we started out, I was going to Kanpur, which is to the left of Lucknow here. I just showed the map. And we said, let's try different things. And we were talking about Corbett National Park. We were trying about different things that we wanted to do. But it converged somehow on going to Ayodhya because there was a lot of talk about Ayodhya. And then we said, let's do this. And that's how this trip came about. So in a way, despite our best plans, I think somebody else had an opinion that we should visit these sites. So we flew into Vārāṇasī and flew out from Prayagraj because those are the two places that have the best air connections. So that's how we ended up doing it. So if you look at the map, it seems somewhat counterintuitive. Why going up to Ayodhya and coming down to Prayagraj? But the air connections are better in these two places. And that's why it's easier for some of us to get in and out. Not everybody was going to the reunion. Some other people were not doing that. So we flew into Vārāṇasī, drove up to Ayodhya, drove down to Prayagraj, and then kind of dismantled from Prayagraj. This was what our trip was. So the first trip that we ended up with was Vārāṇasī. This is a picture of the Kala Bhairava, who is considered the guardian of the Vārāṇasī city. Vārāṇasī itself has three names: Kashi, Banaras, and Vārāṇasī. And so what we learned out of that is Kashi is really the name which is there from the Vedic times. And it's less a name of a city. It's more a name for the state or the kingdom that was there. And in a way, it's also an aspirational name for a place where there is knowledge. So that's how Kashi is. So scripturally, if you're talking about it, you use the word Kashi. Vārāṇasī represents the coming together of the two rivers, Varuna and Asi. And those two rivers come together. That's how the name Vārāṇasī is there. And Benares was more a variant of Vārāṇasī, has been made more popular for Benares Hindu University, has been made popular because of the Benares saris. So it's been a more commercial name. That's what Benares turned out to be. Well, Vārāṇasī is where it is. Now, the current disposition is to try and make it Vārāṇasī. So the airport is called Vārāṇasī now. They're trying to promote the name Vārāṇasī and not the other two names as much as what they can.
The experience at Kala Bhairava temple was really extraordinary. This is obviously not a photograph we took. Cameras were not allowed. So this is something that we got off the web search. And one of the things that our guide told us was, if you are visiting Kala Bhairava temple, it's good to go on Sunday and then go to Kashi Vishwanath on Monday. And it just so worked out that our plan just coincided with that. And the number of people that were walking into the temple, it was in multitudes. But I have to say, it was very, 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 very organized, and people were not rushing. And that was the most beautiful part of this experience.
Yeah. So the city of Vārāṇasī itself, especially the temple area, is extremely small, congested. This was not intended to handle all these crowds. So the passageways are small, the routes are small. But nevertheless, the crowd was moving very orderly, very comfortably. So that's what we had. So this is a view of the Kashi Vishwanath temple from the outside. Now, given all the police, the cordons that are there, given everything else, you rarely kind of enter from the main gate. You enter in from the side, to the left-hand side of where it says gate number 4. That's kind of where you enter from. Very rarely do they see the main gate. And then you kind of go through passageways and get to the particular point where you want to get to the temple.
They have a video coverage, a camera coverage of the Sanctum Sanctorum, and you can see that on the screen here, which is a really nice view for anyone who is standing in line, so you can continue to see the Abhishek that's happening inside the temple.
So as you will notice here, the Shivalinga itself is very small. It's not a very big structure. And second, you will see that it's sunken, which means it is almost below floor level. That's how the temple is. So it's not a temple which is a huge Shivalinga, which is sitting prominently. No, even when you get in, you will kind of find that unless you are right standing next to it, it's very easy to miss it. It's small, it's placed at the lower ground, and that's how the Shivalinga itself is. This is a view of us. We were 7 of us who traveled, and classmates plus spouses. And so this is a view inside, not quite in the temple, but in the area inside the temple when we went in the morning. We did get a chance to go see early morning Monday. They opened the temple at 3 a.m. So we were there around 2:30 a.m. standing in line, and then got into the temple. And when they start the initial thing. So the opportunity that we got for viewing the temple was when they remove the previous night's adornments, get the Shivalinga down to its basic thing, and start the Abhisheka, the morning preparation essentially, and then regarland it, etc. So reaching there in the morning is usually the best way to see the Shivalinga in its raw state, because after that they have the flowers, they have the covering and everything else. So when you get to see that later on, you'll see it only in its covered state, not in the open state. So this is an opportunity that we had. So in this kind of state that we are, where we could see it. One of the other things that is of great value here is what they call the Arati. And these are at different levels. We picked one that was extremely popular. And so here you will see that there are these flags flying, and there are about 9 separate joint things that are placed, and 9 people stand up and do the artis together. And it can be viewed from sitting among this crowd, or it can be viewed by the boats that are floating in the river. So you can stay on the boat and see it from there, or you could see it from by where we are standing at this point in time. So we'll show you a little bit more detail about it. So here you'll see that as we saw the previous pictures a little earlier in the day, as it got later in the evening, that's when the Aarti started. We were sitting there, and beyond the smoke is where the river is. So if you're standing in the river and looking at it, this is where you would view it from. We do have a video also. We'll show it to you later. But this shows you what one of them looks like. In the same way, 9 of them are there, and these people do the Aarti.
It's an extraordinary experience to view this Ganga Aarti, especially at night, with millions of people sitting on the banks, the river flowing on the other side, and constant chanting, and the synchronization of all the 9 priests. It was just a really, really very touching and spiritual experience.
Okay. The other important thing that you can do in Vārāṇasī is to take a boat ride and go along the river. And we'll show you some slides here. But going along, this is one of those boats that we took, which is a double-decker boat, so you can sit on top and watch it. And you will appreciate that some of these cities are actually better seen from the water than on it. And the European cruises are there, and so this is the same thing. These cities are amazing to view. So you will see here the range of ghats. This is one of them that we have taken. There are about 30 of these ghats that are along the way, and some have boats in them, some don't have boats in them, but then they've done a phenomenal job of cleaning up this whole river area, redoing the steps that lead down to the river, and so that you can actually have a walk along the river if needed, or you can stop there and take a dip in the river. and visit the different things. So over a period of time, it appears that different sponsors have built this location. So you'll see the names, and each of them are called by a different name. They're given Ghat A, Ghat B, and so on, depending on who sponsored it. This is another view of it, which is in a less crowded area, and you'll see the steps. This is the most recent addition that has been done. This is called the Namo Ghat, and this has been built towards the end of the river after all of them have been, after the ghats are done. And this, I think, is tending towards an area where they want to also create some spiritual centers and so on, so people can go there and retire and have a semi-vacation, spiritual semi-vacation, and that's how that's getting built out there.
We also had a side trip to Sarnath. I won't spend too much time on this. It was really nice to experience this particular structure, and we had a guide that explained this, but this would be an entirely separate session. I wanted to just highlight this. This was really beautiful. It is very well preserved, and anyone of Indian origin will recognize this as the top of the Ashoka pillar. And one beautiful picture that we took was of the script and how it has developed over centuries, and where we are now with the Devanagari script. It's not very clear in this photograph, but if you have an opportunity, please do visit. And then we headed to Ayodhya. This was, again, a picture taken through a web search. Cameras are not allowed inside. Again, it was just absolutely amazing to walk with millions of people in an organized fashion. You get the glimpse of the deity just for a millisecond, but in that millisecond, you can feel the presence. Picture of
So as you will see here, there is an immense level of activity that's going on in terms of construction. So what has been done so far probably represents about 10% of the intent of this massive temple complex that's being developed. What has been done so far is amazingly beautiful in terms of the level of carving that has been done, in terms of the number of images that have been built around in the temple, from the ceiling to the walls and everything else. Unfortunately, cameras are not allowed there, so this was something which we could take from the outside, and just shows the level of construction that's going on. And once it's done, I think it's going to look like a phenomenal structure in terms of what all is going to get constructed along this thing. So what we are looking at, the main temple is right there behind the cranes. This one temple screen is the only thing that's been constructed, and even that is amazing in terms of the level of carving and design that has been done there. And the crowds, of course, at every point. We have phenomenal number of crowds, but as you can see here, despite the crowd, very orderly. Of course, there is the usual jostling and so on that's going around, but there is no fear, nothing to kind of be concerned about, and it all moves in an orderly fashion. People are polite. People are clearly intent on why they are there in order to visit the temples, whether it be in Vārāṇasī or here or in the next place.
And that was evident in what we felt in the energy being among that many people. You may go to Disneyland or any other place of interest, but the energy that we felt in all these three places, it was just, I felt embraced by all that humanity. I'm getting goosebumps even as I'm trying to bring back those memories.
Yeah. So this is Prayagraj. Now, Prayagraj is a name that has been added on in recent times. Previously, it used to be called Allahabad. Prayag literally means confluence. And there are multiple Prayags around in India, around the place where the Ganges runs. Over a period of time, it collects with other tributaries, other rivers, and so on, comes together. So if anybody makes a trip from Haridwar up to Badrinath, you'll see Karna Prayag, Rudra Prayag, and a whole series of Prayags, which means each of them is a confluence. This is called Prayagraj, as in the king of confluences, only because three important rivers come here: the Ganga, the Yamuna, and the Saraswati River. The Saraswati River starts near Badrinath, but immediately goes underground. There's a story which says that it went underground under the request of the writer of the Mahabharata, Vedavyas, because the Saraswati River, even when you see it near Badrinath, is a very noisy river. It hops and jumps over the stones and has a gurgle as it comes around. And when Vedavyas was composing, he wanted the river to be quiet and asked her to be quiet. And Saraswati apparently said no. And in return to which Vedavyas said, then you will go underground. And of course, the people said, how can we be denied this river? And then she said, okay, way down here in Prayagraj, she'll surface again. So it's considered the confluence of three rivers, Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati. Saraswati is kind of not really seen, it's implied, but here is where the confluence. And you can see the two rivers coming around from both sides, and the confluence is really where you want to have a dip. Because of all of this phenomenon that's going around, this one in 144 years, every 12 years they do this, there has been some immense level of construction that has been done, tent cities. So this is where we stayed in, and we're just giving you a sense for how much of construction has been done. This is a very well done tent cities, really glamping, and you'll see the inside, and there is an attached bath with running water, hot water, and everything else in it. So amazing glamping experience that they have done. So the amount of construction and pipes that have been done in order to support this is extraordinary. This is the view outside from where we were. And the reason why I'm pointing this out is this is taken in exactly the same location, one facing east, one facing west. The picture on the right faces east, and this is kind of where it would have been without all the construction and everything that's going around. It might have looked like this. The scene on the west indicates amount of lights, the amount of bridges and everything else is where the industrialization is happening. And so if you turn to one side, you will see it this way. You turn to the other side, you will see the lights and everything that's going around. Okay.
This might look like, oh my God, where am I? Will I even get to the confluence? Yes, it was a sea of humanity, but I'm repeating, the people wanted to, were all driven by this one particular ambition within their heart to go and have that dip. They were waiting. There was a little bit of, oh, I want that boat and I want that boat, but they were still very respectful. This is the bank. So the confluence is not yet here. So those who were impatient, they were taking their dip here. We waited for, I would say, at least 3 hours.
And this picture here, for example, shows the distinction of the two rivers when they come together. So you'll see the color differences between the two. One is a little more bluer, the other one is a lot more grayer, and there's a distinct difference in where the rivers come together, and then when they start going further down, they blend a lot more. Okay, so that was the strip that we did.
Wonderful, wonderful. Wonderful. So thank you so much. We do have a couple of people wanting to ask questions. So Belaji, please go first. Bela Gupta is our seminar coordinator. She's the one who kind of organizes everything. So thank you so much, Belaji. Yeah, go ahead.
Doc.
Thank you, Belaji, for organizing.
And thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your video as well. This is a really great experience for me because I know that my cousins were also visiting the same time that you were. And I was getting a lot of videos on my WhatsApp as they were visiting. So this really brought all that back. So thank you for sharing this wonderful experience of yours. I several years back had visited many years back, maybe 2 decades back, I had visited Vārāṇasī, and I had the good fortune to visit the Kashi Vishwanath temple. So my question was, have they renovated it? Because I'm not really recognizing it as such, because I remember it as a very small temple and we had to go many steps in the gully, before we could enter the temple. And it was a really great experience for me because it's such a historical temple that was built by Ahilyabai Holkar. And even then, I was mesmerized, by the fact that this is such a historical place. And especially, like you mentioned, the confluence of the three rivers and the fact that you can't see the Saraswati River. And yet the Saraswati River has been mentioned in our Vedas and in our Upanishads. So it's really a very heart-wrenching, I mean, it's a very unique experience that you shared with us today. So my question was if the temple has actually been renovated in recent times.
The temple has a superstructure, which is what you're seeing in that picture from the outside. The actual inside temple is more or less the way it was built by Ahilyabai Holkar. That's still a small. So I think what we showed you were two pictures. One we showed from the outside, which is the big facade, so to speak. That's been redone probably in the last 20 years. And I think what you're seeing on the inside, where we showed us standing there and there was a little bit of a picture on the inside, that's kind of the smaller ones that are there. That's still small. It's not, that's why I said, if you went for the grandeur of the temples, you're not going to find that here. It's not a huge infrastructure. The Shivling itself is very small and all of that. But I think when you're there and that moment when they unveil it, the feeling that you have that centuries of people have prayed here, centuries have looked at it, and other people and millions have come and seen it here. You get that sense of piety, you get that sense of energy that is there. Phenomenal that you see that in that place. Now, it's nowhere near the grandeur of going to a Madurai temple or a Tanjavur temple and seeing the huge superstructure.
And the Shivalingam itself is, like we showed in the picture, it's a little
Yes.
lower. So when you are actually standing there and praying, you really feel that, oh, this is where the energy emanates from. So it's, I think the feeling and the sensation, what you get is very different from what you see in the picture. And yes, there's a lot of construction and you do need to go through narrow alleyways to get there, but it's organized and they have built barricades. They have made it, I won't say they made it quicker for you to get there because they do stop traffic pretty much, so you walk a bit. But when you're walking, you continue to pray. You say your Lingashtakam or you say something that you know, or you just chant with the people who are around you. So the whole experience, you should see it in totality.
Thank you so much.
Just Belaji, to add to what Doc and Sabi said, the temple complex itself is very small. What they have
Yes.
done very well is they have created these new passages to enter the temple. So, for
Yes.
example, there is now one dedicated passageway for wheelchairs. So, if you are wheelchair bound, in the past, it was almost impossible, but now they give you an attendant and they do not stop you that many times because there is very heavy security, as you can imagine. So I have gone both ways, in that regular one where it's a very long queue and you are stopped multiple times and frisked. And also with my mother who was in a wheelchair, that was much, much smooth.
So I think if the intention is I want to have a great experience, I want to not have crowds, I don't want to have dust and everything else, this is not the place to go. If you can appreciate the fact that this is a city that has been built over centuries, built and rebuilt and plundered and rebuilt, because they said that almost nothing there is more than 150, 200 years old. Even though the city is thousands of years old because it has been broken down, built. It's more to appreciate the spirit, more to appreciate the significance of the place. And so if you kind of think of it as the center for learning, the center for Indra learning, as Kashi and so on, then there is something to it. If you come back and say, no, I want to see a nice organized thing, then I would say Disneyland is better.
And within the temple complex, we couldn't go because this was 4 o'clock in the morning. Between 1:45 and 4 in the morning, the other temples were not yet open. But they said there is an Annapurna temple next
We
to
went
it.
to one.
We went to one, but
not all
of them were
there
open
is
at that time.
Annapurna, Shri, and then there is Vishalakshi. There is a whole bunch of temples that are there also surrounding that. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And this ghat, it's called the Dash Ashamved Ghat. That is where they did this arti. It is something, it's an experience again, like I say, that the total experience is what you should try and go for if you are planning to visit. Sit there, experience the Ganga, and you will feel that it is way more than just water. it is a spiritual experience.
Thank you, Savi. And Dr. Bansal ji has a question. So Bansal ji, please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you
Okay.
fine. We can see you as well.
Yeah, thank you. So I think that what you both have presented to us is very, it's a comment first and then a question after. So it's very meaningful. I think that it depends on, you both have compared it to Disney World. I would not even take it there. We are talking, and you both realize it. You just want us as commercially to be aware of what we compare it to in our minds. अरे वहां पे गए थे, वहां तो सब धक्का मुक्की हुआ, कुछ नहीं हुआ, किसी ने रोक दिया, गाड़ी चली गई, हम जब तक पहुंचे तो छुटकी सी वो चीज थी, वो ठीक से देखी भी नहीं, बाहर आ गए, किसी ने और धक्का मारा तो बाहर आके पता भी नहीं चला, वो 1 घंटा 1.5 घंटा 2 घंटे लग गए वहां तक जब पहुंचे, जब तक when we came out it wasn't worth it. I think you carry spirituality to these places, you carry your expectations in the right format, and then you come back with what you came back with. And I would relate to this. Just recently, I had an occasion to go to Haridwar and Rishikesh for a sad reason, but nonetheless, in Haridwar, I felt it was so commercial that when I finished the thing, or finished the rites, I really did not feel that I had gained. What you mentioned in the end, I then had the driver take us to Rishikesh, and I stayed in Rishikesh. And everybody was asking, where are you going to go? And I just wanted to sit on the terrace and look at the Ganges. And it was absolutely meaningful what you said. And it was very, I cannot relate the feeling as to the, I was very saddened. I mean, my wife has just passed away, so that's why I had gone. But I was very saddened when I got into Haridwar and I said, "Kaham mushkil se aisa fazul mein aa gaya." But when I went to Rishikesh, I enjoyed that sentiment which you relate to. And then when we went to the Aarti, I was not relating to how the Aarti was performed. I could find faults with it. कि इसने करा, ऐसे करा, वंदे मातरम बोल दिया, जनगण मन बोल दिया. ये कहाँ पे आरती में होता है, हवन ठीक से करते. That is fine, but it is the occasion, it is the multitude of people and their spirit and your own spirit which melts into it, and you carry that through. And I think that's what you are recounting for us, and I think that that's very positive. So itna lamba comment deke, I have a question. When I was in Rishikesh and Haridwar, and then they sent me to some place called Sangam in the Haridwar area, Dehradun, that was also a travel. But in each place, the river bed, the flow of the river, which I would have expected in the summertime to be quite fluid, was very slow from the periphery. And I saw people, I mean, I didn't go in, I'm water friendly, but I didn't, that was not the right time for me to jump into the water. But when I saw people jumping, they were drifting, but they weren't like strong currents. They weren't like rapids, which I had seen maybe about 20 years ago when I went to Rishikesh in the past. So I don't know if you felt the same way कि आप लोग भी जैसे गंगा में खड़े थे. हमारा बचपन इलाहाबाद में गुजरा है. I spent 10 years, first 10 years of my life in Allahabad. My comments don't stop. I'll stop, Kalyan, in 1 minute. I used to feel that I was being drifted by the water, that the water force was big. Do you feel that way when you get into, like you had a great experience of actually taking the dip?
So the place where we were took the dip, there is actually a sandbank. So the boat takes you to the sandbank in the middle.
Okay.
And close to the sandbank is where you take the dip. And they do have ropes cordoning off that place. So you don't cross the rope.
Okay.
So the water flows quite strongly once you go past
Okay.
the
Okay.
rope. So where you
Okay.
were seeing was really the edge, and that's kind of where we could do it. I think if you
Yeah.
go past that, you're going to certainly get
Okay.
in the water.
In fact, we have a video of one of our friends when we did the video that we showed you of one of the dips. We did it multiple times. He actually went under and we had to grab him back. The currents were so strong.
Yeah.
Mm.
So there are pockets of it where there is more currents and there is less. And I think one of the things that has also happened is, like everywhere else, there are plenty of dams being built on the Ganges.
Yes.
Controlling it. they're holding up the water and so on. So that's
Yeah,
also some amount of
yeah,
reducer.
indirectly, that's what I was trying to figure out, if the rivers are flowing as, but you've answered it.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And thank
and
you
to
for
go-
sharing your experience.
Absolutely. And to go back to what you're talking about, the sentiment, we went with the expectation that, yes, there will be crowds. Yes, we need to be patient.
Yes.
Yes, just go with the flow. So if you go with that and go with the intention that I want to absorb this energy and the feeling that why am I here? People call it
Yes.
just a dip. It was not a dip. It was
Not
way
today.
more than that. It was imbuing something inside you, within you, not so much about cleansing the external.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that feeling, because it comes through in your presentation very nicely.
Thank you.
One suggestion, I would not compare it to Disney World. I mean, Disney World is totally commercial, you know. And I'm happy that the Indian government is not charging. I hope they don't start charging for rivers, because that'll stop the masses from going. We can go, but you know, it would be a very. Thank you.
Buses, I mean, people talk about walking 10 kilometers because buses were stopped way ahead. So all those people from those buses they didn't have this glamping experience. They had
Yes.
walked the distance and they were doing it and they were doing it patiently.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bansalji. Anybody else who has question for Sabi or Doc? Let me see if there is any hand raised. You can use the hand raise feature of Zoom, or you can type in your question, or you can just unmute yourself.
So thank you, Sukalyan, for having us. So we'll stay on to answer questions.
Yeah. Maybe a few
My
more
work
minutes.
duty calls, so I'll get back to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc.
I have one thing to say.
Okay,
Just
Aparna ji, just a moment. Let me spotlight you. So Aparna ji is right now in Delhi, is it?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay. So she is
So
with what is called Institute of Advanced Sciences. It has it's located in India and in the United States. Go ahead, Aparna
thank
ji.
you. Thank you, Professor Sen Gupta, sir, for introducing me. And this is such a nice and I should not say that this is a spiritual talk. This is much more than that. And the experience, once I look at the topic, it was so good to have such kind of discussion and sharing one own experiences. So there is no question as such, but just my comment on the talk that I truly enjoyed your talk and your personal experience. Even in my family, my brother has went there for the Mahā Kumbha. But thing is, what I have realized that there is nobody who is saying that this is my like people from US or any other state is coming to Prayagraj. This is not like my, this is our. So the feeling of our or humanity or mankind, that feeling gives us so positivity, and there is no I mean differentiation between any people from other religions and other beliefs are also there to found that spiritual experience. So that is the true blessing from the Mahā Kumbha that I feel.
Very
Thank you
true,
very much.
Dr. Aparna. Very true, because there we saw the people asked, about the VVVIPs. There were some, and there were some who are celebrities from other parts of the world. And they were there because they had come for a concert. Coldplay was there. He had come for
Yeah.
a concert, and somebody spotted him and they said, oh, wow, look at that. And they were not asking for any additional attention, but they also came there for the same purpose. And that's why I said, when we talk about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, you talk about it and you mention it here and there, but you don't get that feeling unless you are among people with the same purpose. And
Yes.
that's the feeling that I got, which was, it is just not possible to describe that.
Yes, I even want to share one just a line that in 2016 I had an experience with the American teachers. My institute organized such teacher training program in which we had gone to Rishikesh and Haridwar for a spiritual experience. Then one of the fellow American teacher from the Florida only, she take a dip in the Ganga and she start crying. At that time, this was around 9 years back, and I said, "What happened to you?" Because for me, dipping into the Ganga is like quarterly or any time I can go there. And no, we don't find such spirituality unless we are far away from that. Because I am very nearby to Ganga. So I said, "What happened to you?" She said, "Oh, this is a lifetime experience. And I feel that all my sins have gone away now." So this is how she related. So that was a very kind of a thing that, like you were this relating it with Disney and Orlando. You recently 6 months back, I also visited Universal and Disney, other stuff. But naturally, this thing we can't have it there in the US. What we had in this Mahā Kumbh. So thank you for us for such a wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aparna ji. And just to kind of let the folks who are in this Zoom call know, our next speaker for April will be Aparna ji. I mean, the date hasn't yet been finalized. So Bela ji and I are kind of trying to do that. Once we finalize the date, we know the topic, we will definitely circulate. So please be on the lookout.
And Suku, one thing we could not express here was show pictures of the agodas, which is what you may have been seeing in on videos and most of the promotions out of India. But the way it is spread out, if you want to do that, you need to spend at least a week there to go and visit each and every one of those. And those were all in full swing at the beginning. We went in the first week of February. By then, many of those had already been dismantled.
Oh, is that so? Dismantled already?
The chief priests had already left. There was still some. That's where you would get a more like a trade fair kind of an experience, right? Where you go from one to another, the agodas. We did not have an opportunity to do that. And again, some of it has to do with the crowds. It is impossible to cross that river. The bridges, the not so good part is the bridges do get very congested, and you are sitting in the bridge for 2 hours and trying to get to the other side. So it depends.
So just to mention, these are pontoon bridges. These are all temporary because this entire site actually is underwater until maybe late August, September. And then when the water recedes, they get only, I guess, 2 months to prepare this huge infrastructure for such an event.
So that is on the banks. You're right about that. What I was saying is the actual physical bridges that have always been there to connect the two sides. They call it Ariel Ghat, and then there's the Prayagraj side. So to connect that, there's a regular vehicular bridge. So you have to cross that to get the full experience. And for that, you need to take a lot more time. So maybe 12 years from now, we'll try and do it again and spend more time.
Absolutely.
Maybe we'll join you.
That would be fantastic. Yes. That would be fantastic. Now that we know what to do the next time around,
yes.
Differently. And I would still encourage doing all three places if you have the time.
Yes. We will go under the auspices of Savita Tours and Travels. And I mean, it's really amazing how well planned all this is. And you can imagine for 500, 600 million people. It's really, I mean, the spiritual side aside, it's engineering wise, planning wise, it's a marvel as well.
Oh yes, I mean that I'm sure there have been studies done on that kind of planning. It's a huge undertaking that they've done and managed it pretty well.
Okay, Savi. So it's 12:01 at our end. One last call. Questions for Savi? As I said, she's very difficult to get to. Don't miss this chance.
He's just being very nice. I'm sure after the call, he'll get back to being Suku. So, but I really want to thank all of you for your patience and willingness to listen to us.
The pleasure is ours, Savi. So with that, thank you so much, Savi, and Doc, of course, for this wonderful narration and presentation of your experience. We hope to, as I said, to have you maybe for some other topic.
Absolutely, but that's the one that cannot be recorded.
All right. All right. So, yeah.
Thank you all so much. Namaste.
Thank you. And as I said, our next will be, we are looking at the second week of April, but we will definitely confirm. Aparna Dheer will be our speaker. So with that, namaste.
Namaste.
Good day.
Namaste.